Hello, and welcome to another episode of A Glass with Billy. I'm joined today by a guest,
Forrest.
And we're going to be sharing some things today that are commonly used by non-native Korean speakers, so Korean learners, that once you hear it, it immediately gives away that that person is still a beginner or at least still learning Korean. Not necessarily all of them are mistakes as much as they are overused things.
I mean, they are pretty common mistakes.
Sure, well, if you think about it like that, they're mistakes, but they might be completely natural expressions that are used more by Korean learners than actual native Korean speakers.
Yeah.
And I have a few that I want to share, and Forrest also has a few that he wants to share. The first one is 왜냐하면, or more quickly, 왜냐면. And I should say though first, before anyone out there says, wait, but Billy, you teach this in your book. I've read this a lot of times. Koreans use this all the time. Yes, this one gets overused because...
왜냐하면, you know?
because it is a little bit formal, but it literally means 왜, why, 냐, quoting form. So 하면, if you ask why, you can't simply say 왜냐면 and then give your reason and have it mean because of this, but you have to also still end your sentence with a because grammar form. And the most common ending with this grammar form is going to be something like 때문이다.
Because it's only something you really see like in written like formal essays.
It's a little bit more of a formal, not completely formal, but it's not a casual sounding quite expression. Maybe the casual version of this would be just 왜냐, like why.
And then you might actually just substitute 때문에 for like also or something.
Yeah, so a different because form. Yeah, it's fine to use it, but while it's natural, it can get overused, and a beginner Korean learner might use this every time they want to explain the reason for something.
That's a no-no.
As they say. So then the next overly used Korean expression is
basically pronouns.
Okay. I, he, she, you.
Yeah, not so much like our or we. That's actually used a lot. It can become a really bad habit where we just one-to-one translate, but it's way more natural to just be like our house, right? 우리 집, right?
우리 학교.
Yeah, because like in English especially, we always say who's doing what, right? So we're like, I am at school. I also went to a concert yesterday. Like we're always adding I or you or, you know, all these other pronouns all the time in English.
So that would be like 저 or 나.
You know, 제가 or 내가, like, or the famous 당신.
당신, yes.
당신. Yeah, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen videos of don't use 당신, and hopefully you've seen explanations of where it is used. It's not like it's not used at all. We don't need to use you, especially when in Korean we have titles and other ways to address, you know, whoever we're addressing, right?
So using lots of pronouns like I, he, she, you, these things in Korean can be a quick giveaway that someone's not a native speaker. Every sentence saying 저는 and then something you did, and then 저는 and the next thing you did, or 제가 the next thing you did.
Even I used to do it all the time too.
I did it as well. Everyone does it.
저는 학교에 가요.
그리고 저는. Whenever you're using pronoun for talking about someone, it's yourself or someone else, make sure that you're not overusing it. You can use it once when you're introducing that, or if it's not clear, like if you want to distinguish something, like I'm going back to this person again, let's talk about them again. Otherwise, it sounds very repetitive. You don't need to use words for you. Instead, you mention using titles.
Titles, or if you don't know how to address them, you don't know the appropriate title, so you have to think really fast, like how do I avoid using a title and you in the
I
sentence?
need to say you, but I don't know what to call you
basically
yet.
What I do is I look directly like at them. You wouldn't be like, oh, did you eat? You'd be like, oh, 점심 먹었어요? Like, that's it. You don't need to add anything. You're directly speaking to them.
Another way you can also do it is if you want to even be more polite, then do that and just add honorifics. So instead of 점심 먹었어요, you can say 드셨어요?
Maybe a little weird. It depends on who you're talking to.
Depends on who you're talking to. 뭐 어디 가셨어요?
Yeah.
Like that. Now, since it has an honorific, it 100% has to mean someone else. So it implies you if you're looking at someone.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Which actually leads us to the next commonly overused word, and that is one of the titles, she.
Yeah. So I also didn't know this for a really long time until I went to language school. Because like in every textbook, like I'm sure in a lot of your example sentences, you have like momo shi.
Yeah.
So you just assume that it's extremely natural.
Name shi.
You have to be careful as well, especially if you're saying like kimchi, like that actually, if you were to do that like at some place that you're working or even like, you know, at school or something, it can be really offensive. Like she is like actually less respectful. It's like, it's not honorific. It's
more
like
standard.
Standard, yeah. That's why we have like nim, right?
Yeah.
Nim is added to everything.
So nim used with names. This would have been before you were learning Korean.
Yeah.
Used to be not a thing.
Yeah, it used to not be a thing. Honestly, even when I was like going to language school and stuff, like, you know, like 5 years, 4 years ago, whatever, I didn't know it was a thing either.
And then one of the reasons why it's not considered to be especially polite is because now there is a more common word which you might hear after people's names when you're not close with them, and that would be nim. So you can just use nim, swap it for shi whenever you want to be more polite.
Yeah.
You might see shi still used all over the place. Just know to be a bit careful with it. And if you're not sure what to call someone and you want to be respectful, I would recommend nim.
And if you don't know what to call them, then just ask. So it's always good, especially when you first meet someone, it's like a habit, like besides asking how old they are, right? Also like, oh, how should I call you, right? So after asking how old they are, then just ask how you should call them. And that will make things a little bit easier.
Yeah, and then just say their name plus nim if you're not close with them.
Yeah. Or if they tell you like, oh, you know, call me like hyung, well, like nuna, whatever.
And that actually leads us into the next.
I'm really good at this.
That was good. The next overused word, and that is going immediately from someone's name to calling them hyung or oppa or nuna or 언니, because now you're friends. So obviously, right? You should.
You told them how old you are, right?
Oh, you're older than me.
You told them your name.
Then you're my hyung, or you're my oppa, right? Right away. Some Koreans would sure like that.
I've had some people like, so I do call her Nuna.
Okay.
But when I first met her, like I found out how old she was and stuff, and she's like 10 years older than me. So I was just like, oh, Nuna. And she's like, it's okay now. But actually what happened was that she didn't feel comfortable with me saying it right away. And so she explained that to me. It's like, hey, we're not that close yet. Like, type of thing. I didn't know.
For reference though, when can you use these words?
Ask them first. So ask them literally, oh, can I call you Nuna? Can I call you Oppa?
Or just, what
like,
should I call you? And they might just tell you, hey, you can call me hyung or whatever like that. Just make sure that you understand these words are for actual like close friends, like a family, like an older brother, older sister.
Like you should literally think of them almost like an older sibling.
These are also very natural, but I hear them overused. 그리고 and 그래서.
Honestly, most of the connecting like words, like transition words rather.
Yeah. 그런데, 근데, like
그렇지만, like
그렇지만,
하지만. When you're speaking, especially, you don't want to like sound so choppy. When we're speaking right now, it's just we're saying whatever comes to our head, right? It's not coming out like as full thought out sentences necessarily. It's not like you're writing a book.
So,
it sounds very choppy.
Yeah, like if you say a sentence and then you say, oh, I want to add something to that. You say, 그리고, it kind of sounds like you're saying, in addition to that, or when you say 그래서, it's not just like you're saying therefore or so, it's like due to that, because of that, 하지만, it's like, however, if you said a long thing about some topic, and then you're like, oh wait, in addition to all of that,
I totally forgot this one thing.
Yeah, okay, so that's done, but in addition,
one more thing,
it's perfect. 그리고, it's used all the time, and it sounds really natural, but what's unnatural is da-da-da-da-da, 그리고, da-da-da-da-da, 그리고, da-da-da-da-da.
Like, you're not gonna use these like transition words, so you're gonna just be like, 하고, and then add
하는데,
something
하지만,
이거 좋지만 별로 안 좋아, or something.
This is good, but it's not that good. Sure.
Sometimes you want these like sort of pauses, like you drag out the transition word to give yourself time to think, rather than just cutting the sentence completely. Like try to sort of, I guess, get into the habit of connecting the ideas, giving yourself time to think a little bit by dragging out the sentence.
Just give yourself a pause after you say your last sentence, think of what you want to say, and then continue the next sentence, and that will sound much more natural and it won't have that break in it. You might be confused. Well, wait, filler words will actually make your Korean sound more native. And it's what really helps you sound more like someone who's been living in Korea for a long time. But overusing them will have the opposite effect.
Oh, baby, you've lived too long in Korea.
It's time to get out. Some specific ones I wanted to mention are 막,
막.
and then 그냥. First of all, 막, I use it all the time.
Me too.
막 doesn't really have much meaning when it's used as a filler. It can also have a feeling of someone's like wildly doing something. But when it's used as a filler, it just is like, it kind of sounds like. It doesn't really have any meaning other than you're going to emphasize what you're saying right after it. And 그냥 has a similar use. You can also use it as a filler to just mean like, or literally you can use 그냥 to mean just. But then if you put these in multiple times in the same sentence, then it really starts to sound unnatural.
I know some Koreans actually, they'll just be like bak 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 like 3 times in a row, and I'm like, can you finish the sentence, please? Like,
this is something Koreans will also do as well. This might make it more difficult to pick up on that this sounds unnatural.
It's almost the same as like in English when if we say like a lot,
every
you know, like oh
sentence,
my,
like oh my, like. So just be careful on how often you're using not just these, but any sort of filler words. The same goes for 그, 저, 그냥, 그막, 그냥. Any of these filler words, just use them sparingly. This one is an overused mistake, but it's also in itself kind of a mistake. And that is people asking other people, how are you doing? 잘 지냈어요? 어떻게 지냈어요? 잘 지내요? 잘
요즘 어떻게 지내?
요즘 어떻게 지내? For example, in the US, you go to the cash register and you're buying a can of Dr. Pepper. What does the person at the register ask you?
How's your day? How's it going?
Oh,
how are you?
It's great. How about you? You know, you don't care. But this is
that sounded so like no emotion. It's just like I don't care.
You might care.
You might care. Just a little bit.
These sorts of expressions are simply not done in Korean.
A lot of it is just being directly translated from English and assuming that Koreans like greet each other or start small talk
in that way.
That way, maybe some of you don't know, or maybe some of you do know, but like small talk is not really a thing.
Instead of asking someone how they are, you can ask them a variety of other things, but mainly, did you eat? These are more common kind of small talk you might hear, but how are you is more of something you ask after not seeing someone you already know for a long time. Like, hey, what have you been up to in all these months or years since I've seen you?
Or even if it's like a few weeks, even like, oh, 밥 먹었어? Like, is like, that's also with close friends. A lot of times people will be like, oh, it's it's the equivalent of what's up in English.
But then at the same time, you don't randomly go up to someone you meet at the park and be like, oh, 식사하셨어요?
Yeah.
It's like,
who are you?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with all these other phrases, to be honest. Like, who are you?
Yeah.
Do I know you?
So that's one thing that gives away someone as a Korean learner is
trying to start small talk. Like, you ask questions, but these aren't the questions you ask. You actually end up asking more personal questions. Where did you come from? Or, oh, do you go to school here? Or like, what department are you in? Like, what's your major?
Yeah, why are you in Korea?
Yeah, things like that.
That's true. Korea does have some small talk, but it's different.
It's very different.
The way they do it, the things you ask are different.
It still has to be within some sort of group setting. So like in a classroom, at work, things like that.
It's kind of a mistake, but it's also heavily overused, and that is using the 고싶다 form. So that is an action verb stem. So like 하다 would be 하고 싶다. So like 하고 싶어요, 가고 싶어요. This sort of thing is a natural way and the correct way to say you want to do something, whatever verb comes before it. It's completely natural. However, it is not natural when you're using this to say something that you're going to do. Like if you say, yeah, after school, I want to go get my hair cut. Anything that you're actually already making plans to do, you wouldn't use this form. You instead could use like 갈래요 or 할래요. Or if you're asking someone, hey, do you want to go somewhere? Like you're suggesting something to someone, you don't want to say 가고 싶어요, which is like directly asking, is that what you want to do?
It can almost sound like commanding, like 가고 싶어요. Like,
like you're going. Don't you want to go?
Yeah, it's like
instead you'd want to use a suggestion form. So like maybe 갈까요 or the 레요 form for something that you're going to do. But the 고싶다 form would be just simply for expressing something that you want to do. Like maybe, oh, I really want to go to that concert tonight. Not that you're planning on it, not that you have a ticket, but I really want to. And in that case, it's perfectly normal.
I felt like I avoided a lot of those mistakes. Like I never did like 하고 싶어요 or whatever. I was like, oh, like 같이 갈까? You know,
Yeah.
like since I'm so interested in like cross-cultural psychology and stuff like that, I already had the mindset of like, okay, I need to think of how Koreans would, you know, act in the situation. So I feel like I avoided a lot of mistakes.
All right, so those are some things that we have noticed that Korean learners tend to overuse. Are there any other expressions or words or anything that you've noticed or that you yourself have been overusing or still overused? I keep using the word overuse a lot. Let me know in the comments below.
That's the whole point of the video,
Yeah.
is overused.
Thank you for watching, and we will see you again in another video. Kram? Sure you don't want to do it with me?
Nope, never. I've officially given up, I told you.
Just try it one more time.
Just
Last time. If it doesn't work, never again. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Kram?
Wait, okay, on one, okay.
3, 2, 1.
그럼
다음에 또 봐. You kind of got
it was better.
Yeah, that was better.